Hi, my name is Arna.
And my name is Annabelle.
Welcome back to the Brookvale Media Production. To celebrate President's Day, we will be talking about some presidents that made a difference in our daily lives.
George Washington was a very impactful leader of the United States. He was the commander-in-chief of the Revolutionary War and one of our country's founding fathers.
George Washington was born on February 22nd, 1732, in Westmoreland County, Virginia. He served as the first president of the United States starting in 1789.
He is best known for helping to write the Constitution of the United States. George Washington was elected as the president of the Constitutional Convention, but his role was more of keeping the debate going in a civil manner. He was highly respected as a military leader and helped the convention delegates to come up with solutions as a united group rather than to act as individual states. The Constitution gains a government system that brings America together with checks and balances.
When Washington was still young, he served in the military and was assigned as the leader of all 23 Virginia troops because of his natural leadership skills.
In March 1775, Washington was selected to be a delegate to the First Continental Congress. Then, in 1786, Congress approved a convention to be held to improve the Articles of Confederation because Washington wanted to improve the nation's government.
In the end, Congress made a plan that would solve the nation's problems, which was the Constitution.
Abraham Lincoln was considered one of the founding fathers of the U.S., even though he wasn't one of the people who helped make the U.S. independent, since he wasn't alive when the U.S. was founded.
Abraham Lincoln was born on February 12th of 1809 in Hardin County, Kentucky. He became the United States' 16th president in 1861.
Lincoln was the commander-in-chief of the Civil War, which is the highest rank in the military as a civilian. The American Civil War started on April 12, 1861, and ended on April 9, 1865, when he was assassinated.
Lincoln is most famous for issuing the Emancipation Proclamation, which said that all people that were held as slaves should have the right to be free. The Emancipation Proclamation was issued on January 1st of 1863.
Though we may not realize it, these presidents changed their lives in many ways.
Right now, we live under the laws of the Constitution that George Washington established. If it were not for Washington, our country wouldn't have the freedom and hope we have today.
Also, Lincoln made changes in segregation that may have seemed to split our country, but ultimately ended with the Emancipation Proclamation, which is why there should be no slaves left in the United States.
Thank you for watching this video.
We hope we see you next time on the Brookvale Media Project. Hello, my name is Annabelle, and today in the Brookvale Media Production, we are doing a segment on Theodore Roosevelt. Theodore, or Teddy Roosevelt, was born on October 27, 1858, in New York City and into a middle-class family. That means that he had enough money and freedom to have a good life, but he wasn't extremely rich. His parents were Theodore Roosevelt Sr. and Martha Bulloch. He is not the same person as his distant cousin, Franklin D. Roosevelt, though. When he was a child, Roosevelt was ill with a weak heart and had asthma. Despite this, Theodore Roosevelt was able to land a spot in Harvard College and graduated in 1880. Also in 1880, Roosevelt married Alice Hathaway Lee and went to law school. He didn't stay in law school for long and instead went on to do other public services, such as being a leader of the New York State Assembly and captain of the National Guard. His mother and wife died on February 14, 1884, and so he got remarried to Edith Kermit Caro in 1886. He became a civil service commissioner, a New York police commissioner, and then became an assistant U.S. Navy secretary. Theodore Roosevelt became interested in the Spanish-American War, so he left his place in the government to organize a voluntary group, cavalry, called the Rough Riders, and he led a charge up the San Juan Hill during the Battle of San Juan Heights in 1898. He received the Medal of Honor and became governor of New York in 1898. When Roosevelt was 42 in 1901, he became the 26th president and the youngest person to become president in the U.S. He is famous for ending the monopolies by using the Sherman Antitrust Act. Because of his dedication to this, he established the Square Deal, his approach to social problems to help all classes of people. During his time as president, he increased the power of the U.S. military, and he helped end the Russo-Japan War. He received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1906 for this act, because it was thought that the war may have otherwise ended in an imbalance of power. Imbalance of power is when one group doesn't have the same amount of freedom than the other. Theodore was also one of the country's first environmentalist presidents. He signed the National Monuments Act, protecting national wildlife areas all throughout America. He also published over 25 books, including a biography and autobiography. On January 6, 1919, Theodore Roosevelt died in his sleep. He was 60 years old and was buried in New York at the Young's Memorial Cemetery. Although Roosevelt is no longer alive, his legacy still lives on. National parks such as Grand Canyon are protected because of his acts. Without Theodore Roosevelt, America would not be the same. Thank you for joining us on this section about Theodore Roosevelt on the Brookvale Media Project. We hope you join us next time. Bye!
Hi everybody, welcome back to the Brookvale Media Project. Today we are going to be presenting you an awesome topic. The topic is food around the world.
There's so much food around the world that I bet you didn't even know about. Each country has its own type of special dish or national food. Today we'll tell you about that.
Do you know the country Italy? Well, their national food dish is called ragu alla Polonaise, also known as Bolognese. This dish is basically like a meat sauce with other ingredients like onions or carrots and butter. The dish gets its name from a city in Italy called Bologna.
The creator of this delicious dish is Pellegrino Artusi, who created it in 1891.
Italy is not the only country with its own national dish. Did you know that Jamaica's national foods are ackee fruit and saltfish?
Saltfish is a kind of cod that is salted. The ackee fruit is shaped like a pear and has a red to yellow-orange color when it's ripe to eat.
That is so cool. Another awesome national dish is called mole, pronounced mole. It is the national dish of Mexico. It is made out of chocolate. This sauce is mixed with nuts, fruits, or chilies. It is often served with rice and meat. Sometimes it's used to fill tamale.
That sounds very scrumptious. Another national food we're going to tell you about is Brazil's national dish, Feijoada. This very delicious stew is full of black beans and meat. It is sometimes served with white rice and maybe even grains.
Wow, that's so cool. Did you know that Japan's national dish is curry rice? This dish is not like any other curry you've seen before. People often add meat, potatoes, carrots, and spring onions to the dish. The curry is then cooked and added with rice. It is also garnished with chutneys, pickled scallion, pickled daikon, and eggplant.
That sounds very delicious. Now I want to eat it.
Well, this talk about food is making me very hungry. I want to have lunch, especially pizza. Anyway, we hope you had fun learning about food all around the world.
Thank you.
See you next week. Bye.
Hello and welcome to the Brookvale Media Project. My name is Rihanna and today I'm working with Nir.
Today we are going to talk about Yellowstone National Park, its activities and beautiful sights.
Yellowstone National Park is the oldest and largest. It is the best known national park in the United States. Yellowstone is in northwestern Wyoming, partly southern Montana, and the eastern side of Idaho.
Some activities are seeing the wilderness outside, watching some geysers blow in front of your very eyes, explore the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone, and so much more. Of course, there are physical activities too, such as hiking, rafting, camping, and fishing.
Yellowstone was established on March 1st, 1872. It is the world's #1 national park. Yellowstone contains 3,472 square miles and measures 63 miles north to south. That is 2,221,766 acres. Did you know that it is larger than Delaware and Rhode Island if they were put together?
I didn't know that, although I know that Old Faithful is the most famous geyser in Yellowstone National Park. It turns out Yellowstone is a home to more than 500 geysers.
Nice. This sounds amazing. And now I want to go to that wonderful national park.
Yellowstone encompasses over 2 million acres and has over 900 miles of hiking trails like Uncle Tom's Trail, Mount Washburn Trail, and the Slow Creek Trail.
Wow, did you know that there are more than 285 species of birds in Yellowstone? Yellowstone is home to some of the largest mammals. The wildlife there is abundant and diverse.
Those are some facts about Yellowstone National Park and the activities.
Thank you for listening. Bye!
Hello everyone, and welcome to another Brookvale media production. Our names are Lizzie
and Arjun.
Today we'll be talking about President's Day and how it came to be
and why we honor it.
These presidents we will be talking about, who we honor for all their hard work to make America a better place.
And after we tell you how this holiday came to be, we will be sharing some fun facts about our amazing founding fathers.
President's Day is a very important holiday which we celebrate to honor the people who paved our way closer to a successful nation. America is a place where people can be free to do what they want. Our founding fathers make sure of this. Let's begin the history of President's Day.
President's Day is on the third Monday of February. George Washington, our first president, had his birthday on President's Day. We celebrate Abraham Lincoln as well on this special day. George Washington was venerated as the most important human being of the U.S. history, and people thought we should have a holiday to celebrate him. President's Day was established on February 22nd, 1885.
After Washington had been a successful Continental Army general, as we know as the CAG, people decided to make him the first president of the United States. He contributed so much in the world that almost everyone was in support with him being a national leader. Washington agreed because he was an important part of the United States. He also thought that with his leadership, he could stop all the chaos that was going on.
Cool. Abraham Lincoln was also an important part of the U.S. history. He fought in the Civil War, which ended slavery in the U.S. He was the 16th president. He is part of President's Day. These presidents have done so much for our country that there is a federal holiday based around them.
Now, in honor of President's Day, here are some fun facts about some presidents. Number one, a fun fact from SOP schools. Even though it is a federal holiday, each state is free to call it whatever they choose and how to celebrate it. That's cool.
Now we will tell you a few fun facts about presidents we celebrate on President's Day. A fun fact is that George Washington will be 282 years old this year.
Wow, that's old. This one isn't a very fun fact, but it's still interesting. According to Dexter's, the day Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, he had told his bodyguard that he had dreamt of being assassinated. What a coincidence.
Wow. Here's another cool one. Did you know that Abraham Lincoln was the tallest president and that he had a spot in the Wrestling Hall of Fame? As a young high schooler, he was very talented in the sport. When he was a child, he almost died by getting kicked in the head by a horse. Abraham sure had an interesting life.
Whoa. Also, did you know that George Washington's hair was all real? It just looked white since he powdered it every day. He had wooden teeth. Also, George Washington was a surveyor before he was actually a military leader.
I did not know that. Did you know that before George Washington spent nearly $200 on ice cream during the summer of 1790? That is almost $5,100 in today's money. He also lost 2,800 men in the battle for New York City.
I didn't know that. George Washington must have loved ice cream. Here's something else. Before fighting the British, George Washington fought for the British. Cool, right?
Abraham Lincoln was also self-taught. He was very poor and barely had enough food to feed himself. Instead, he bought some books and eventually taught himself law. Eventually, he was able to become one of the greatest presidents of all time.
Whew, I don't think I can handle any more of these surprising facts. But our main point was about President's Day.
Thank you so much for listening to this.
Hi, my name is Arna, and welcome back to the Brookvale Media Production. Today I will be telling you about President Franklin D. Roosevelt and the impact he had on our lives right now. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was born on January 30th of 1882 in Hyde Park, New York. Roosevelt was born into a very rich and privileged life, as he was an only child born into a wealthy family. Franklin Roosevelt is not to be confused with his distant cousin, Theodore Roosevelt, who was also a famous president. Franklin Roosevelt, also known as FDR, attended Harvard University and graduated with a degree called Bachelor of Arts. Roosevelt later went on to marry Eleanor Roosevelt in 1905 and have 6 children. He was continuously elected as a state senator of New York twice, despite being a Democrat in a city that tended to choose the Republican Party. There are 2 different groups that each select a leader to run for president. These groups are called the Democratic and Republican parties. Thereafter, Roosevelt became interested in nationwide politics and was nominated for vice president in 1920 Democratic Convention. When Roosevelt was at the age of 39 in 1921, he got a disease called polio, which made him lose the use of his legs. Determined not to let other people face the same fate, Roosevelt organized the March of Dimes Foundation, which ultimately funded an effective cure for polio. Roosevelt believed that he would not be able to run for president because of this disease, but his wife and political confidant, Louise Howe, encouraged him otherwise. After the stock market crash of 1929, people were blaming the Republicans for the Great Depression. Roosevelt saw this as an opportunity to run for president, and after calling for a government intervention to help the citizens, Roosevelt won the election in 1932 against Herbert Hoover. FDR won the elections for the next 3 terms, even if he was not always completely willing to. After his second term, Roosevelt was not planning to run again, but he felt that he had the leadership skills to lead America through World War II. After his 3rd term, though, no one questioned when Franklin Roosevelt ran for his 4th term. Over all of his other accomplishments, Roosevelt is still most famous for calling a New Deal for American citizens. This program was an efficient way to provide jobs and money for those who were suffering because of the Great Depression. Should I do that sentence over again?
You're loud enough.
Okay. On April 12, 1945, FDR died from a massive brain damage when he was 63. Though he has long since passed away, we will always honor Franklin Delano Roosevelt for his many accomplishments that have affected our lives. Roosevelt led America through World War II and provided relief for citizens in America during the Great Depression. Thank you for watching this segment on President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and we hope you see you next time on the Brookvale Media Production.
Can you imagine a woman who is 101 years old and still lives in the United States of America and earned the nation's highest honor? Well, there was a woman named Katherine Johnson who used to be a worker at NASA. Katherine was born in Sulphur Springs, West Virginia in 1918 and attended high school at the age of 13. She could do math problems without help and exceeded all the standards in school, as well as college and high school.
Johnson also graduated with the highest honors and had a job in Virginia, teaching at Black Public School. Katherine Johnson was an important mathematician of orbit mechanics who also had a successful education and was the first African American to work at NASA. Katherine Johnson had a successful childhood and upbringing during school. She also started to attend high school at the age of 13 on the campus of historical Black West Virginia and enrolled for college at the age of 18. Katherine had a better life than some people in some conditions, though.
John Williams Davis was a diplomat and lawyer who used to serve under President Woodrow Wilson as Solicitor General. He offered Katherine and 2 other African American people to study at the state's flagship school in West Virginia University. Johnson wanted to accomplish her goal by studying hard and earning good grades, showing that everybody has a talent in something. There were many accomplishments and failures throughout Katherine Johnson's childhood. In 1953, Katherine joined the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics as the mathematician in NASA. Later, Katherine moved from Flight Mechanics Branch to the Spacecraft Controls Branch,
where she calculated the flight trajectory for Alan Shepard, the first American to go to space in 1959.
She also calculated the trajectory of the Apollo 11 flight to the moon in 1969 and retired from NASA in 1986. She gained many awards. For example, according to the author, the text says that the NASA Langevin Research Center Special Achievement Award in 1971, 1980, 1984, 1985, and 1986. Katherine Johnson also received the nation's highest civilian honor as a medal. It's the Presidential Freedom Medal and can be achieved by a civilian in the United States.
Even though she has the best education she can have, she had many accomplishments during her career, which affected her life to become famous. In conclusion, Johnson is still a famous person throughout the world. She had many hardships and successful times in her life with family, friends, and education. She helped NASA in many ways through her calculation and knowledge that she had.
She wanted to set an example for other African American people that everyone has a talent, and if they work hard, they surely shall achieve their goal.